I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. I'm going to hand it over to Petra, who's going to talk about the small mapped area changes.
So like Shauna just went through the citywide spreadsheet, I'm going to go through the small mapped areas spreadsheet. So starting on page 1 of the spreadsheet, our first line is on page 36. And this change is in table 2411 and is about this section here that I've highlighted, the rear setback in the MX form-based ID zone district. And sorry, the MX, all of these, the MX form-based ID, the MX form-based FX, and the MX form-based AC zone districts. In all of these, this proposed change is to make the rear setback go from 15 feet or 10 feet or 5 feet, depending on the subzone, to 0 feet if your rear lot line abuts a street or alley. This is to bring the form-based in line with the previous downtown 2025 sector plan. This was something where when we carried this over into the IDO, we did not quite carry it over correctly. And this means that you can have garages accessed directly off of an alley or a street if that is your rear lot line. So moving on to our next change on page 75 of the IDO. This takes us to the CAUSE CPO. This is the CAUSE Character Protection Overlay. During the 2019 annual update, we added a parking reduction to major transit corridors. And in response to this, there was some concern from the community about it. And so what this change would do, and it would add it in as a new section 5C. So it would be a new section here, and then it would renumber all the others accordingly. It would add a statement that says parking reductions associated with proximity to major transit are not applicable to the CAUSE corridor CPO. We've got a typo out there that it says VPO, but actually it would be the CPO. And so this would make clear that you could not get that parking reduction if you're in the CPO. So moving on in our spreadsheet. Our next one is in the Volcano Mesa VPO, View Protection Overlay. So this is page 111. CPO, Volcano Mesa CPO. Sorry, I read that wrong. So this is adding a cross-reference to a proposed new height sub-area, which I'm going to talk about in a few lines coming up when we talk about the Northwest Mesa VPO. So this adds a reference to the Northwest Mesa height sub-area 1, which already exists, but also adds in a cross-reference to a future height sub-area 2. And also adds a cross-reference again to this sub-area, and this would go in on the next page, which references the landscaping within the VPO2, so that's the Northwest Mesa Escarpment VPO, height sub-area 1 and sub-area 2, that a minimum of 25% of the net lot area of each multifamily mixed-use and non-residential development shall contain landscaping. So hopefully the next line in the spreadsheet is the overarching section that, nope, it's a little bit further on. Okay, so going by the spreadsheet, our next line is 132. And although this is highlighted in gray on your screen, whoops, that's a bit weird. This is actually one of the council lines. But this would add a clarification that there are no height bonuses allowed for workforce housing or structured parking within the CABQ VPO. This is, again, there was a change in the 2019 annual update that added a height bonus to major transit corridors, which CABQ corridor is, for workforce housing. And this makes clear that if you're within the VPO, there is no height bonus allowed. And then we are also adding this next line down here for page 133, which is our next one, that there is also no parking reduction associated with proximity to major transit in the CABQ VPO. Okay, so here we go. The two cross references that I confusingly just mentioned earlier about the Volcano Mesa area refer to the Northwest Mesa Escarpment VPO. So the Northwest Mesa Escarpment View Protection Overlay, number 2, applies to this large area that we can see in the map in the IDO. I'm going to skip from the spreadsheet to the council memo so that we can go through this kind of line by line. So the overall perspective on making this proposed change to the view protection overlay is to protect the escarpment and have an extra area of transition when you're getting to the escarpment. So the existing Northwest Mesa Escarpment area kind of goes around the escarpment and the major public open space and the national monument. And within that view protection overlay, there is an existing height sub area. That existing height sub area is generally mapped about 200 feet away from where the escarpment edges are today. And within that area today, heights are limited to 15 feet. What we are proposing is that there be a second area that kind of is a ring around that acts as a transition from the rest of the zoning and the rest of the development and the existing height sub area. And so within that area, we limit the intensity of development. And this amendment proposes to do that in 2 ways. 1, through design, and 2, through use. Through design, what it proposes is to limit the height to 30 feet and the landscaping to be 25% of the net lot area. In most parts of the city, the net lot landscape, the net lot area of landscaping is 15%. So this is a pretty significant increase in the required landscaping area. The idea being if the building is limited in size and the landscaping is increased, the footprint and the scale and intensity of the development that's designed for the site is lesser, and therefore there would be less impact on the escarpment from adjacent development. So that is our sections 4 and 5 in this memo. And then we go into the uses. So within the IDO, we have some requirements that certain uses that are considered a little bit more intense, mostly industrial and auto-related uses, that when they are within a certain distance or adjacent to major public open space, they are either prohibited or a conditional use, depending on the use. And what this proposes is that we add in the existing VPO height subarea 1 and the height subarea 2, that in all of those instances, they are also treated in the same way as properties in proximity to major public open space. So for example, today, if you are within 330 feet of major public open space with a car wash, it's a conditional use. So we would extend that conditional use requirement also to properties that are within 330 feet, within the VPO2 sub areas 1 and 2. Or 2, sorry. And that would apply for all of these uses. So car wash, heavy vehicle sales, rental, fueling, and repair, light vehicle fueling, so a gas station, light vehicle repair, light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, natural resource extraction, solid waste convenience center, waste transfer center, warehousing, wholesaling and distribution center, and drive-through and drive-up facility. All of these uses that I've just listed already have special rules associated with them when they are in proximity to major public open space. So we'll be adding with this proposal also the VPO to height subareas 1 and 2. So to go back to our spreadsheet, that is the proposed change for the Northwest Mesa Escarpment area. So moving on to our next line. Oh, that's all of our lines. That's weird. There is another one, and it should be that also comes from council, and that's the Uptown Center. That we got a couple of errors on our shading here. So if we go to page 193, the IDO currently has a prohibition for the Uptown Urban Center on drive-throughs. So this is actually a little bit on page 193 and also on page 194. So I'll scroll up a little bit on the IDO PDF. So today in the Uptown Urban Center, there is a prohibition on having drive-through and drive-up facilities associated with a restaurant. And what this amendment would do is it would change the prohibition to be limited to areas that are further than a quarter mile away from I-40. So if you are within the Uptown Urban Center and you are within a quarter mile of I-40, you would be able to do a drive-through or drive-up restaurant. This being that these areas have a little bit more pedestrian activity, less pedestrian activity and not very pedestrian friendly, because generally it's close to where there are freeway on-ramps and off-ramps and are just not very walkable areas. So a drive-through or drive-up facility would have less pedestrian impacts in that portion of the urban center. So there is also another change that our spreadsheet has that we're missing. Let's see, which is about downtown and roof-mounted signs. Let's see. Okay, so number 332. So this would allow for building rooftop signs to be added to areas near the downtown center. So with the adoption of the IDO, we allowed rooftop signs within the East Downtown area, as this is a type of sign type that historically was quite common in the East Downtown area. Rooftop signs are required to have a certain amount of, it's basically the scaffolding and the lettering of the sign lit up. And so what this would extend is that if you are within the downtown center or within 330 feet of it, a rooftop sign would be allowed. So page 332 and then page 336 are kind of sister changes where we are on page 332 saying you can do this in this area. And then on page 336 and 337, we're saying how you can do it. So we would add a new line to this. So as you can see in the IDO, we've got a section here about the East Downtown, and it talks about how you can do rooftop signs. And in that situation, we would also add downtown center. And so this would be adding in the language that says rooftop signs are allowed in the mixed use and non-residential zone districts in the downtown center or in any mixed use or non-residential zone district within 330 feet of the downtown center. And then this has the requirements about how much of the area is channel lettering and open and how much of it has to be visible. So you're allowed to have up to 30% of the sign area shall consist of the channel letters, channel graphics, open lighting elements, or a solid panel. And the remaining 70% of the sign area has to be open. And with that, I believe that is all of the changes that have come from City Council in the small mapped area spreadsheet. So I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much for joining us for this video. If you have any questions or want to send in some comments about this, we encourage you to reach out to the planning department. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.